So welcome to this first session of the 6th Adhyaya. We'll start with the gratitude to the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible, and to the Guru Parampara, through whose grace this knowledge is preserved and passed on from generations to the next. I pay my respects to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I am able to learn the scriptures and share my understanding with you all. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the 6th Adhyaya is a very beautiful Adhyaya. It is all about Dhyana Yoga. It is also called Atma Sanyama Yoga. So Dhyana, as we understand, it is meditation. And it is our experience that when we sit for meditation, we have a lot of thoughts, the mind keeps wandering and does not allow us to meditate, to focus, to be quiet, shant. And so meditation is not possible without mind restraint. And that's why this word Atma Sanyama Yoga. So Dhyana is almost synonymous to Atma Sanyama, because unless there is Atma Sanyama, we will not be able to go into Dhyana. And that is why it is also called Atma Sanyama. Now, Atma, the word itself means the soul. Atman, when we say, we believe it's a consciousness. But Atma word is used for several other meanings. And here the word Atma Sanyama means, Atma here means the Karya Karana Sanghata, our body and mind complex, which is not the real Atma, it is the Anatma. But it is said that the Jeev believes that he is this body-mind complex. And that's why when we say I, when we say Main, I believe that I am this body and mind complex, the Karya Karana Sanghat, which is said in the Shastra. So this includes the Sharira, Mana, Prana, Indriya, Chitta, Ahankara. So all these together, along with the Chaitanya, because I don't believe that I am this Jad or this Achetana. So I believe that I am Chaitanya, I am the life, I am living being, and that's why all these Karya Karana Sangat along with the Chaitanya is considered as Atma, that is called the Jivatma as we call it, or we also call it Jiva in Shastra. So this is called Atma here. The word Atma here means this samuha, this conglomerate, this unison of all these. What is mixed, what is mixed in my identity. I am not clear what is my identity. I believe that I am all this is what I am. So Sanyama of all this, Sharira, Mana, Indriya, Chitta and Ahankara is called Atma Sanyama. And this Adhyaya talks a lot about the spiritual journey, the sadhana, because Dhyana is a very important part of the sadhana. If we want to understand this knowledge, we want to assimilate this Atmasad in our life and put it into our regular routine use in our life, then this is the most important thing, because Gita Ji is a book. It's not just a book, it's a complete manual for life. And in Gita Ji, Lord Krishna talks about several different aspects of our life, which we can understand from a different perspective, because Bhagwan ka jo perspective hai, his vision is so different. Our vision is very limited, it's very, very short, it's quite short-sighted, whereas his vision is enormous, it's magnanimous. His view, his goals are ultimate. And that's what that vision he gives in the Gita Ji, and shows us the path, not just shows us the goal. The goal is Atma Jnana, but he shows us the yoga path, the way to achieve this goal, which is also, if we walk on this path, this is called the yoga sadhana, which is called the spiritual path. We also call it the adhyatmic path, patha. So ultimately, we have to understand first what is the goal of our human life, and second, how we can reach to that goal, how we can achieve that goal. So what are the different ways, what are the different sadhana, the tools, the means to achieve that end. And dhyana is one of these sadhana. Just like karma we saw first, bhakti. Similarly, dhyana is another sadhana which is on the yoga path or in the yoga marg. It is a very important sadhana to achieve the Almighty, to achieve our goal. So in Adhyaya 2, 3, 4 and 5, initially Lord Krishna talked about the Jnana Yoga. In the second Adhyaya, what is Atma Jnana? What is this Atma Tattva? Talked about how we can achieve this, how we begin our sadhana, started from Karma Yoga. In the second Adhyaya, then went to Sthita Prajna. Then in the third Adhyaya, gave more detailed description of Karma Yoga. So Arjuna has done a lot of Shravana. He has understood what are all these concepts. He has understood what is this Atma. He has understood what is this sadhana, what is karma, what is the role of jnana, what is the role of. Now Lord Krishna उनके ऊपर कृपा करके उनको ध्यान का उपदेश दे रहे हैं. In Adhyaya 6, what Lord Krishna talks about is a very different aspect of meditation, which is not the normal aspect of meditation that we talk about or we understand in our routine life, but it is a type of meditation called Nididhyasana, which is also Vedantic meditation. And here the purpose of this meditation is to assimilate this knowledge in our life. So Gitaji is a manual not just for understanding some esoteric thing about some philosophy, but it is understanding the reality of life, understanding the truth, and then living that truth. So we have to assimilate that truth in our daily life, in our every moment of our life that we live, and then we have to live the life accordingly. So that is the ultimate goal of Bhagavan Shri Krishna, and that is why he is giving these teachings, this Uddesha. So how we can assimilate this knowledge in our life, that is what Dhyana is all about. How to Atmasad this understanding message that we have understood, we have learned, but it is our own experience that when we listen to this from a learned guru, it appears quite real. It appears quite, right. We feel that this is the correct thing. This cannot be anything else. When they apply the yukti, all the different kinds of prakriya, the process, then we think that this is the right thing. But then when we come back to our worldly life, we are not able to live with it. We get back to our old routine. This is our experience, and how to incorporate that understanding, that knowledge into our being, so that we can live life, every moment of our life with that understanding, with that knowledge. So this is what is called as a Nididhyasana or Vedantic meditation. So whatever we have heard by Shravana, it has to be rooted into us. It has to be made firm into us. It has to be made steady into us. So that is what is Dhyana. No new knowledge needs to be created by Dhyana. Dhyana does not create anything. Dhyana does not create any new knowledge. Knowledge is only given to us by Shravana, which is one of the Mukhya sadhana for this Atma Jnana. So Shravana from Guru Mukha, from the Guru's mouth of the Vedanta Vakyas is the main tool, main means or main sadhana for this Jnana. But then this Shravana does not remain sthir inside us. So how to steady that understanding, how to make that understanding crystallized into us, to make it one with our life, that is the purpose of Dhyana. And it is not easy, neither to do Dhyana nor to assimilate this knowledge. It is not easy. And the reason for this is that there are a lot of Viparyaya. Viparyaya is another type of a disturbance or ashuddhi or impurity. One is Sanshaya. Sanshaya is doubts in our mind. Oh, Atma is this, or Atma is it there or not? All the kinds of doubts in our mind is called Sanshaya. But Viparya is the opposite sanskara, Viparit sanskara, or different or old sanskara, or you can say opposite sanskara. Because what is given to us as a knowledge from the Guru is quite opposite or quite contrary to what is my understanding. I believe I am this body, I believe I am this mind, I am this person, I am by profession I am this, that, I am in this family, I am a husband, I am a father, and this is my understanding. But Shastra tells me that no, you are not the body, you are not your mind, you are not your Indriya, you are not your Buddhi, you are Akhanda Satchidananda Brahma, you are the Chaitanya, you are the Atma. So this is quite contrary to our belief, our understanding. And these Viparit Sanskara have to be changed. And this is what Dhyana does. Dhyana or meditation is mainly used to change this Viparit Sanskara. And that's why Lord Krishna gives a lot of important suggestions, instructions, messages in this Adhyaya regarding meditation. A lot of detailed, small, little things is telling us, because it is very difficult to do dhyana. We all know that when we sit in silence, what happens? Our mind keeps wandering. And that's why how we have to live life so that we can do dhyana. All these very important things he has mentioned. The body also has to become very quiet, and the mind also has to become very still. All of us are very active people. Our mind by nature is very active. It is chanchala. In 6th Adhyaya, Arjuna says, after listening to all the meditation, Updesha, he says, Bhagavan, how is it possible? My mind is so chanchala. How can it remain steady? And Bhagavan says, yes, Arjuna, you are right. Mind is very chanchala, but still by abhyasa and by vairagya, it can be made steady. So that comes in the 34th or the 35th shloka. This will come. That God also accepts that yes, mind is very chanchala. Human mind is very active. How to steady this mind? That is the main goal. And only with a steady and a still mind we can enter into this dhyana sadhana. Otherwise, it is not possible to do this kind of Vedantic meditation. It is very difficult. So, our body also, we are very active people. We keep moving, we keep doing activities, chestas, all these activities we keep doing, movements. Whereas in Dhyana Kala, we have to completely steady our body. We have to actually forget our body. We have to make our mind still. We have to actually, from outside world, we have to go deep within ourselves. So that is a process of Dhyana or meditation that Lord Krishna talks in this Adhyaya. So as we just reiterate what is the salient features of sadhana, as Lord Krishna talks about in the 2nd to the 5th Adhyaya, Antakarana Shuddhi, inner purity, is most important first step in the sadhana. From all our regular activities, we have to get on to this and go and use Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga to develop purity of our Antakarana Shuddhi. Because that is the most important. Unless Antakarana is Shuddha, unless there is purity within, we cannot have this Jnana. It's not possible, because this is the eligibility. This is at least the basic necessity, qualifications, adhikaritva to attain Atma Jnana. So this is the most important step, and this is a step which takes a long period of time. Most of the time is taken for this Shuddhi. After that, once Sapeksha, at least some amount of Shuddhi has happened by Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga, some kind of Samatva Buddhi has happened. We have risen above the Dvandva or the dualities of this world. We have understood that this world cannot give me what I need, what I want, which is eternal happiness. This cannot be given from this world. Then that importance, Mahatva Buddhi on these worldly objects, persons, relationships comes down gradually, and then our own mind also becomes gradually quiet. Those emotional upheavals come down. We don't get so upset for small little things. And then gradually, when the mind becomes more quiet, more still, we can If we have a guru, we will be initiated into this Gnana Sadhana by Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. And finally, with this Gnana Sadhana, the goal is to achieve. Achieve is not something that we have to prapta. Don't have to achieve from outside, because this is my own self. So achieving here means that I have to know my own self. It is, in Shastra, it is called praptasya prapti. Means I already have it. That is part of me. That is not just part of me. That is part of the universal existence, the essence of this universe. And I have to just know, just understand that I am this part of this eternal existence. I am one with this existence. So this is the Atmagnana, the self-knowledge, the knowledge of Aikya between the Jeev and the Brahma, I and the Lord, and all this Jagata, Jiva, Ishvara, everything is one when we look at the substratum, when we look at the Adhisthana or the Chaitanya. And with this we have Agnana or Avidya Nivrutti, and this gives us the highest goal of our life, which is called Moksha, which is eternal freedom from all the bondages, which I yearn, which all of us yearn for. So this is in nutshell the sadhana that Bhagavan Krishna showed Arjuna from the 2nd to the 5th Adhyaya. We talked about a lot of subjects, beginning from karma, beginning to bhakti, yoga, gnana, sannyasa. A lot of subjects has been talked. So dhyana or meditation can be of two types. The first one is the one which is done before Shravana. Before we hear the Vedanta, we hear the Shastra. Before that, whatever meditation we are doing is of a different type. And this meditation is called Yogyata Prapaka, so that we obtain the eligibility to enter into the dhyana of the second type, which we'll come to. And this dhyana can be in several forms. One is japa. Japa is taking continuous name of either Ishvara, Bhagwan, either some mantra that our Guruji has given us. It could be japa of some, our Ishtadeva, the Bhagwan that we believe in. Or it could be Upasana, Bhakti, it could be Saguna Bhakti, Saguna Dhyan. When we believe in the Lord, we do a lot of seva, archana, arti, all these different types of seva, upasana. Pranava dhyana, so omkar, regular chanting of omkar, or Ishtadeva dhyana, so dhyana of our Ishwar or our Lord. So all these types of dhyana are the first type of dhyana, which is before Shravana, which is a Yogyata Prapaka. And this are the types of meditation which we see today in many retreats that are happening. One is for relaxation, where people say, oh, you are working too much, why don't you relax by meditation? So this relaxation meditation, sometimes people do concentration meditation, especially in the yoga sadhana. There is this Trataka and a lot of other meditations done for increasing the focus, improving the concentration. So there are a lot of meditations people do on Omkar, on some Murti, so Dhyana. So a lot of different types of concentration Dhyana are also practiced by people. The other type of Dhyana is called Dhyana for having an abundance as our vision, because we believe that we are very limited to this body, mind and this, this 5.5 feet of body. But we have to believe that we are part of this existence, we are part of this universe. So for understanding this, we have to do some dhyana of abundance. So one can do dhyana of a Virata or a Vishwarupa Darshana of Prabhu, Bhagwan. It could be meditation of the ocean, which is very vast. It could be meditation of the sky, Akasha, which is extremely vast. So this is the way we can have vastness in ourselves, feel that we are part of the creation. And then there could be some dhyana related to the values in life, some guna, Daivi guna, we can do dhyana. But the second type of dhyana is done after we do Vedanta Shravana from the Guruji. And this dhyana is called Jnana Nishtha Prapak Dhyana, which is meant to obtain the Jnana Nishtha or self-knowledge, to assimilate this Gnana which we have heard from the Guruji in our life and to put it into our practice. So this is the type of meditation which is called Nididhyasana, also called Swarupa Dhyan. This is a Nirgun Dhyan, and this is to establish this truth in ourselves, to change our Viparyaya, the Viparit Sanskara, to change our old impressions, and to put this new Sanskara from Anatma Sanskara, we have to go towards the Atma Sanskara. So this is the change of all the beliefs, our core belief systems we have to change, and that's why it is not easy. It takes a long time, it requires continuous efforts, it requires continuous perseverance, persistence to change these impressions. And so this is the dhyana that Lord Krishna talks about in the 6th Adhyaya, and we will see what he tells us. The 5th Adhyaya was the Karma Sannyasa Yoga, in which Lord Krishna talked about Sankhya Yoga, Nishkam Karma Yoga, showed that Karma Yogi and Nishkam Sannyasi both are almost the same, they are as good, and he praised Karma Yogi and said that Karma Yogi Vishishyate, and then talked about the Lakshana of Sankhya. Karma Yogi talked about the Gnana and how we can put that Gnana into our life and understand that, we are the Akarta, Bhokta, Swarupa, Navadware, Pure Dehi, Kurvan Naiva Karomiti. I am not doing anything. How we can understand this? And then finally, in the last 3 shlokas of the 5th Adhyaya, Lord Krishna gives a link, talks about the Dhyana Marg, talks about the 3 important aspects of Dhyana, and then there is a link starting of the 6th Adhyaya. So in the 27th shloka, Lord Krishna of the 5th Adhyaya, he says, Sparshan krutva bahir bahyan chakshuschaivantare bhruvoho pranapanau samo krutva nasabhyantara charino. So here he gives a brief description of Dhyana Yoga and says Bahyan Sparshan Bahi Krutva. Sparshan means contact, and when the senses or the Indriya, they come in contact with the object, this Bahyan Sparshan means outer objects, that is what it means. And he says Bahyan Sparshan Bahir Krutva. So during the meditation, you have to keep all the outside objects or outer objects outside. You don't have to, by your mind, by your thinking, you don't have to bring them into yourself. That is what Lord Krishna is trying to say. Stop thinking about the outside objects when you sit in meditation. So keep all these objects outside. Chakshuhu chaivantare bhruvoho. What about your eyes? Your eyes must be closed, and closed eyes must be focused in the center of the eyebrows. So that is the Bhruva. And that is the place where Agnya Chakra is there in the Yoga Sadhana, Yoga Marg. Prana Apana Samokrutva. Keep the Prana Apana, inspiration, expiration in balance. Nasabhyantara Charino. Keeping the breathing in balance. So breathing and Prana has a big importance with the mind, because when the mind is Vikshipta, Vikshepa or disturbed, then our breathing also becomes quite rapid. When the mind quietens down, the breathing also becomes quite quiet. That's why there is a definite relationship between pranayama and mana shanti, and a lot of pranayama is done for mental relaxation also. So this is the what Lord Krishna tells us. In the 20th shloka, Lord Krishna says, Yatendriya mano buddhihi munir moksha parayanaha Vigatechha bhaya krodhoya sada mukta eva saha. So here he talks about the Dhyata. Dhyata is the person who does meditation, who meditates and shows what are his attributes and the benefits that he obtains by doing this meditation. Yatah indriya manahuti. He says Yatah means whose senses, mind and intellect are well under control, are well balanced, are well niyantrana, sanyamit. And he says this is a person, this seeker is also a munihi. Munihi is a person who is a mananashila, who keeps on using his mind, awareness, understanding, intellect to control his mind, to understand a lot of different aspects what Lord Krishna is saying here. And he is moksha parayana, whose goal of life is to become free. So for this person, and who also has let go on his desires, ichha, because if there are a lot of desires, he will not be able to do meditation. He also has left his bhaya, fears, all different types of fears we have regarding our disease, regarding death, regarding a lot of other things. All these we have to live before we go into meditation, deep into meditation. Anger is something that will not help us, because that will keep hammering us and not allow us to do proper meditation. So we have to let go of anger also. Yah sada mukta evasa. Such a person, he says, who has controlled all his, who has become, whose goal is clear and who has let go all his asuri sampatti. He is a person who becomes free from all the bondages. He is a mukta, and he will become a jivan mukta, or he will achieve moksha or freedom. So that is what Lord Krishna says. For 1 hour of meditation, we have to change 23 hours of our life. That is what he will speak in the 6th Adhyaya. What are the important aspects? And the final shloka of the 5th Adhyaya, Lord Krishna says, Bhoktaram yagna tapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram surudam sarva bhutanam gnatva mam shanti mruchati. So this is the last shloka of the 5th Adhyaya, where he shows his Sopadhika Swarupa. Lord shows that he is the Karta Bhokta, and shows the goal that one who sees me in this way as a Bhokta of Yagna and Tapa, beneficiary of Yagna. So the Devta who is the beneficiary is also Brahma, and the Tapa, the person who does the Tapa, the Yajmana, he is also Brahma, he is also Devta. So all these are the same. Sarvaloka Maheshwaram is the Lord of all the beings in this loka, in other lokas, Lord of all the lords, and who is Suruda of all the Bhuta. All the Bhuta means all the beings, is a friend. And such a friend, Suruda, is such a friend who does not have any expectation of anything people doing in return. So God does so much for all the beings without any expectation of return. And someone who understands God in this way, he says, Gnatva mam shantim mruchati. He knows, with this way, if somebody knows me, one can achieve eternal bliss, Aikya or Samadhi Avastha. So with this, the 5th Adhyaya came to an end. And we are now starting the 6th Adhyaya, and this is the first shloka of the 6th Adhyaya, where it does not start with Arjuna's question, just like the 5th Adhyaya and the 3rd Adhyaya started with a doubt which was raised in the Arjuna's mind. But here, Lord Krishna again starts with saying, Anashrita karma phalam karyam karma karoti yaha sasanyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakriyaha. So he says importance of Karma Yoga, he explains. Before we have to go to meditation, before we have to go to Dhyana, this is the Bahir Sadhana. Bahiranga Sadhana means outer sadhana of the Gnana. Because Gnana has outer sadhana as well as inner. Antar Sadhana and Bahiranga Sadhana. Bahiranga Sadhana, Karma Yoga, Bhakti, Upasana, Tapa, all these are Bahiranga Sadhana, which are very, very important for Antakarana Shuddhi. Only then we can then go into the Antaranga Sadhana, which are the Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, before we go on to the Dhyana Sadhana. So he shows that Karyam Karma Karotiya. So one who does all his duties with the Kartavya Karma, with this attitude of Karma Yoga, based on the responsibilities of whatever I have as different roles in my life towards my profession, being a family person, being in the family, being in the society, being a part of the country, a citizen of the country. We have several different responsibilities towards all this. And this roles and responsibilities which we do in a particular way with a particular attitude, where we just don't keep on taking things or, by selfishly, but also giving something back to this society, to the family, helping others without any selfish motives, so selfless activities or nishkam karma, which is of course karma yoga. So with this understanding, if we integrate our worldly life and spiritual life and worldly life have to be integrated. There cannot be two different lives, that I do 1 hour of spirituality and then I live 23 hours in my routine life. Our Guruji tells us that we have to integrate both this completely, so that whatever we understand as 1 hour in our Shravana or Manana or Nididhyasana, we have to put it into our life, into our practice for the next 23 hours. And we have to live the rest 23 hours in such a way that we can do that 1 hour of Nididhyasana or Dhyana. So that is the integration of the worldly and the spiritual life. It says how we do this Kartavya Karma, Anashrita. karma phalam, by leaving all the attachments to the fruits of the action. And Lord Krishna in the second, third and fourth adhyaya has very clearly said this several times, that we have to leave karma phala tyaktva. Every time he says karma phala asakti, we have to leave, and we have to do anashrita. Anashrita means without any expectation, without any ashrita, by being ashrita to the Lord, by being surrendering all our activities to the Lord at His lotus feet. So Ishwararpana bhavana, nishkam karma, and then accepting whatever comes to us, all the prasad as a prasada buddhi. So karma phala, we should not get attached to the karma phala, we should not have any jeed, any duragraha, any obsessions, that the strong belief that this should be the karma phala that I should get by doing this karma. But we should leave it to the Lord. He is the person who will give us whatever karma phala is desirable from this karma. So this is a person who is such a karma yogi. Bhagavan says he is the sannyasi. And in our mind we have this thinking that sannyasi is superior, karma yogi is inferior, person who is renunciate is a much superior person in the spiritual life, but the person who is karma yogi is inferior. Bhagavan says such a karma yogi is a sannyasi, sannyasi. So in Bhagavan's vision, in Lord Krishna's vision, karma yogi and sannyasi are the same, because he is a true yogi, he says, because both these persons perform tyaga, and tyaga is the highest form of important spiritual activity, which is important, which we need to practice, because this is, and he says, na niragni na chakriya. So somebody who just gives up his actions, somebody who just gives up his karma by taking sannyasa, by and just becomes akriya. Akriya means just remains without activity. He is not a sannyasi. One who becomes sannyas, vidhivat jo sannyas lete hai, they are called niragni, that person, because they don't have any connection with the Agni. Most of the times in Vedic times, Grahastha had to do a lot of Agnihotra, a lot of karma, yagna, and then finally, even not during the life, but even after death, his Agni, his body would be burned through Agni. So all this Agni related karma was the dharma or was the karma of the Grihastha. Whereas sannyasi is liberated from all these Agni, fire related karma, and that's why they are called niragni. And here he says, a person who just gives up action or just becomes, takes up a saffron cloth, or just wears saffron clothes, is not a sannyasi. Sannyasi is a person who actually has the tyaga, who has given up, who has vairagya. That is a person who is sannyasi. Sannyasi, the word itself means samyak nyasa. Nyasa means to let go. And samyak means bahut achhi tarah, very well, with maturity, with understanding, you let go of things which are not important for you, by that understanding that no, this is not important for me, not by suppressing our feelings or beliefs or our ichha, desires, but by the right understanding. So that is the meaning of the word sannyasi, where the importance is of tyaga, to let go. So karma yogi himself is also tyagi, because he does karma phala tyaga. He let goes of the karma phala. He does not think about the karma phala, because that is, he feels that ye to Bhagwan jo bhi karenge mere liye acha hi hoga. This karma phala, this is not my department. This is a Lord's department. My department is the karma department. I must do it well, and that's what he does. Whereas the karma sannyasi, they do tyaga of the karma. They have done the karma tyaga, all the vidhivat, they have done karma tyaga, and they have sansar tyaga. So they have done this tyaga. So both are tyagi. And in the vision of the God, both are equal. In the vision of the God, both have to do this jnana sadhana to achieve the ultimate goal of Atma Jnana. And Karma Yoga is the best way, is the safest way according to the Lord. He has also said this in the 5th Adhyaya also, that out of when Arjuna asked this question, karma or jnana, what should I do? Whether should I do karma sannyasa or whether I should do karma yoga? He always says karma yoga is the safer way. It is the safe because it causes raga dvesha shithilikaran. It causes neutralization of all your raga dvesha ashuddhi and causes antakarana shuddhi. And this is the much more safer way. In the 5th Adhyaya he says karma yoga vishishyate. Karma yoga is Vishesh because Adhikari here is the Arjuna, and he says Karma yoga is safer, it is better for you Arjuna than Sannyasa. That is your dharma, that is your karma, you should do it. And he says that the mind must be free from all the ups and downs. Then only this kind of mind, which is devoid of these raga, dvesha and all these emotional upheavals, is ready for the dhyana. So this kind of shuddhi, some kind of these is essential before we go into dhyana. What Lord Krishna is talking about in the 6th adhyaya is a very elevated level of dhyana, which is talks about which is the Atma Swarupa dhyana. So to reach this, some kind of a mental tayari or preparation is necessary for this before we enter into this dhyana stage. In the second shloka it says Yam sanyasamiti rahuhu yogam tam vidhi pandava nayah sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. So in the third adhyaya, it starts with the Arjuna's question that which one is better? Why do you promote me into this Ghori Yuddha if you say that Gnana is better? When he talked about Sthita Prajna, finally in the second adhyaya, Arjuna thought that Gnana is a Shrestha. Why should I do this karma? And Lord says, Lokeshmin Dvida Nishta Pura Prokta. He says, Gnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam. Gnana and Karma, these are the two paths based on Adhikari Bhed. You can take either of these paths. But here he says that both these paths are not two different paths. They come and meet. They are the same. Ultimately they come and meet. He says, O Pandava, Yam Sanyasam iti prahuhu yogam tam vidhi. You know that sannyasa is the same as karma yoga. Both these paths ultimately lead you to the same goal. And he says, Nahi sanyasta sankalpo yogi bhavati kaschana. One who has not left his binding desires does not even become a yogi. So in both these, to leave this sankalpa, sanyasta, which is very important, we have to renounce our desires. And this, according to Lord, is the most important thing. Whether you are a karma yogi or you are a sannyasi, one has to do sankalpa tyaga. So tyaga of all the sankalpa, sarva sankalpa sannyasi. That person, karma yogi, is also a sankalpa sannyasi, and the sannyasi is also the vividisha sannyasa. They are also sarva sankalpa sannyasi. So he says what is more important here is to let go your binding desires, sankalpa and sannyasta. That is important. And here sannyasa is the same as karma yoga. They are the same path. And karma yoga, as we all know, is the path for the initial purification of our inner self, our mind, because this is the only mind which can then get into meditation. And we have to get all the obstacles of meditation from our path, clearing all the obstacles away. And most of the obstacles are not outside. Most of the times we believe that this person is giving me dukkha, that person is not good, he is very, very jealous of me, this person, we feel that all the problems are outside. But actually all our enemies, the true enemies according to our Shastras, are all inside us. Sitting inside all these Asuri Sampatti, all our wrong beliefs, wrong conventions, concepts, our convictions, our dhrad belief systems, our strong obsessions, all these are our main obstacles, our own main obstacles to progress in the spiritual path. And that's why we need to cultivate our mind, so that this mind does not keep complaining about outer world all the time, because we always find faults in others and we try and keep complaining about these issues. And mind, we have to create a mind which does not get affected by the daily situations. Ups and downs are part of life, but our mind must remain stable, must remain still, and that is how we have to cultivate our mind. And we have to cultivate our mind in such a way that it accepts any eventuality, any result of whatever we do. So that kind of samatva buddhi we have to cultivate, and we have to understand that I cannot change anything outside in this world. Everybody is created in by their own way, by their own nature, and whatever I can do is only I can work on my own self. That is the best I can do. That is also quite difficult, to change my own self, my own thinking, my own beliefs. That is also difficult, but that is the best I can do, and that's why it is best to work in this way. And I should avoid being judgmental, giving a lot of judgments, because this creates a lot of problems. And introspection about my virtues, my vices, my goals, my path, my means, Where do I need to go? Where have I reached? How can I improve my progress? All these introspection is very, very important. So we have to focus on our goal, and everything else should remain unimportant. Our goal should be the most important thing in our life, and only with a quiet mind we can enter into this dhyana yoga or meditation, which is possible only with this kind of a karma yoga, purity of the mind, stillness, quieting of the mind, and then we can practice. And in this third shloka, which is a beautiful shloka, Lord Krishna clears all the dilemmas of Arjuna. Arjuna has a lot of dilemmas. From the third adhyaya he started, and in the fifth adhyaya also it started with this question, whether karma or jnana, whether karma or jnana. What should I do? Prabhu, tell me whether I should go into war, whether I should take sannyasa, whether I should run away to the forest, do meditation, do some sannyasa, jnana sadhana. Why should I fight this ghor battle where I have to fight with my own relatives? And in this third shloka, all the Arjun's dilemma comes to an end. Even before, without Arjun's question, Bhagavan Krishna gives an answer, and once and for all, he clears all his doubts. And then further, Arjuna never asks this question again. It says, Aru rukshor muner yogam karma karana muchyate yoga rudhasya tasyaiva shamah karana muchyate. Says, Aru rukshoho munir yogam karma karana uchyate. So for the muni or a seeker who is on this path, who is desirous to ascend on the path of yoga, who is the Arurukshu, or who wants to ascend on this path of yoga. So for him or her, karma yoga is the best sadhana, it's a means, karma yoga, right? So karma karana uchyate. But for a person, yoga rudhasya tasyaiva shamah karana uchyate. One who has firmly established in yoga, means he's become yoga ruda. He has already ascended this yoga path. He's already at the top. He's already achieved the climax. For them becoming quiet. Karma nivrutti shama. Karma nivrutti dhyana. Shama karana muchyate is the means. It is the sadhana. So once and for all, he says that somebody who is desiring to ascend on this path of yoga, on the sadhana, for him karma yoga is very important because he has to do shuddhi. Before that, he cannot go into Jnana sadhana, but who has already gone through this initial sadhana, who has already achieved this shuddhi, and who has already achieved, is firmly established in this yoga, then for him, shama. So for him, karma nivrutti, jnana marg, dhyana marg is the best marg for that person. So there are a lot of ashuddhis in us which have to be cleared, and this is what the yoga sadhana does. And there are 4 types of ashuddhi which yoga sadhana or yoga shastra tells us. Anadi karma. We have been doing karma for many years, for many lives also. And these karmas can be ashuddha, impure, they could be shuddha, pure. Ashuddha karma brings the papa along with it, and this papa is the root cause for the dukkha that we get in our life. Whereas shuddha karma produces punya, and this punya produces the sukha or the pleasures that we get in our life. The other ashuddhi is the pancha klesha. That means avidya, that is the ignorance. Asmita is our ahankara, kartrutva. Raga, this is our attractions, our attachments, our, we have a sukha buddhi in something that will give me this pleasure. Dvesha is dukkha buddhi or repulsions in some persons, vyakti, relationships, objects. Abhinivesha is that strong duragraha, jid, obsessions about certain things, very strong ones. So these are all the pancha klesha which we have to remove. Vasana, our lots of desires constantly coming up one after the other. They may be prasupta, they may be latent, they may be tanu. Tanu means they may be in a childlike stage which is not fully developed, or they may be vikchinna. Vikchinna means completely satisfied like in a jnani, or they may be very udara. Udara means they are well developed like a teenager. They have a lot of desires of doing this, that, the other. So these are the types of different vasana or desires that are present in us. And then the 4th ashuddhi according to Yoga Shastra is pratyupastita vishaya jala. So the binding things which are because of the objects in front of us in the present life. And this is all because of our asakti, our attachments to all the people, persons, objects, situations that we are in, and the Mahatva Buddhi, the importance, undue importance we give to these worldly things that are around us. So these are all the Ashuddhis, and unless these Ashuddhis are cleared, we cannot enter into Dhyana. So he says, Yoga Rudha. Agar we want to become Yoga Rudha, then all these Ashuddhis have to be cleared. And Yoga Shastra shows us three solutions. One is Tapa. Tapa is a habit of enduring some kind of a voluntary difficulty. Somebody may be doing Upvasa, fasting for a day, either on Agyarasha, that is the 11th day, the Tithi, or on some particular day like Monday or Sunday, depending on what they believe. So all this, somebody may take the niyama or a rule that every Punama I'll go to this temple, I'll do some prayers. Somebody will say on this day I will not do fasting, I will do fasting. So all these is tapa. So it's a habit of enduring some voluntary difficulty, and this also gives rise to some shuddhi, it also gives rise to some punya, also some shuddhi, body shuddhi. Swadhyaya. Swadhyaya basically means swa adhyaya or su adhyaya. So that means that completely being adhyaya or dhyayate into one thing, that is Paramatma. So that is either by doing japa, where we take some Bhagwan ka naam, mantra, kuch bhi, and Shastra Adhyayana is also kind of japa, continuously reciting, reading Shastra, understanding Shastra, doing Adhyayana of the Shastra, and Swa Adhyayana. Swa Adhyayana, basically Adhyayana means introspection. We do our own understanding, what we have reached, how we have reached, where we have reached, where do we need to go. And this all happens inside our mind, and this is the mind cleansing part. And Ishvara Pranidhana. Ishvara Pranidhana means we surrender to the Lord, and this is by Prarthana, Saguna, Dhyana. All these are the ways, solutions to achieve the Yoga Rudha and achieve some kind of purity of our mind and our inner self. The fourth shloka, Lord Krishna says, Yada hinendriyartheshu na karma swanushajjate sarva sankalpa sannyasi yoga rudhastadochyate. So in this shloka he gives three attributes of a person who is yoga rudha. We already said, if somebody has become yoga rudha, then for him shama karana uchyate, he can become nivrutta, he can go into gnana sadhana, he can do karma nivrutti, he can take karma sannyasa. So what is that person who has become yoga rudha? Whom can we say that he is a yoga rudha? Whom can we say that he is the Aruruksha? So here Lord Krishna gives three definitions of Yoga Rudha, and he says, Yadahi na indriyartheshu na anushajjate. When there is no attraction in the sense objects, indriyartheshu, indriya or artha, ka jo sanyoga, through which these senses go into the objects and give us the sense pleasures. So this, if it doesn't become anushajjate, it does not get attached to this, does not have an attraction, does not have a raga to this kind of a sense pleasure. For that person who has understood that this sense objects do not give me very transient happiness, it is not the real happiness. Ultimately it gives me more pain when I get indulgent. I indulge into this kind of a happiness, it gives me more pain in the long run. When he understands this, with this understanding he let go of these sense pleasures. So that is the Indriya Sanyama. Na karmasu anushajjate. So that he has no attachment to his actions, because we have a lot of attachment, we do a lot of kinds of different types of karma, and this is because of our strong kartrutva, abhimana that binds us to this karma, keeps on making us do this karma. So we have to kind of have some restraint or control over our body, because karma and activities are done by the body. And sarva sankalpa sannyasi says the third attribute, who renounces all the worldly desires, all the sankalpas, that I want to do this, I want to achieve this, all my ambitions, all my, every day, every moment we have new sankalpa coming in our mind, because that is the function of the mind, to create sankalpa and to do vikalpa. Sankalpa, vikalpa is the function of the mind, where it does sankalpa, should I do this? No, I should not do this. Can I do this? No, I should not. So this is what is the control of the mind. So somebody becomes a sarva sankalpa sannyasi, let goes of all these kinds of different desires, sankalpa. So he has a control over his mind. In short, person who says Yoga Rudhas Tada Uchyate means he is considered to have become Yoga Rudha, who have ascended on the path of yoga. In short, Lord Krishna says that somebody who has a Indriya Sanyama, who has a Mana under control and whose body is under control. So Indriya Sanyama, Mana Sanyama and Sharira Sanyama, that person is a Yoga Rudha who has already ascended on the path of yoga. So in the 5th shloka, Lord Krishna says, Uddharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadaye atmaiva yatmano bandhuhu atmaiva ripuratmanaha. This is a very beautiful shloka because here Lord Krishna tells us what is our responsibility as a seeker, and he says how Arjuna must have thought in his mind, you have given this tall order of Yoga Rudha, but how do I achieve this Yoga Rudha? And Lord Krishna, without even Arjuna ask question, he tells him that you have to make attempts, you have to make all the efforts to become Yoga Rudha. It is your responsibility, Arjuna. And he says, Uddhared Atmanatmanam means elevate yourself by your own self. Atmanam na avasadayet. You don't let yourself down. It says, Atma eva hi atmano bandhuhu. You are your best friend. Atma eva atmanah ripu. You are your own enemy. So he says, with your own self, you have to prop yourself up. Don't let yourself down. And you can be your best friend or you can be your best enemy. So you decide what is good for you, what is not good for you. And it's a very nice shlok. It shows us what this Atma Krupa, what is given in our Shastra, what it means, Atma Krupa, responsibilities of my own self towards my own upliftment. What is this? My own responsibility. And this shlok clearly mentions that responsibilities of the progress is with the seeker. But one cannot take a wrong view just by taking this isolated shloka out of context of the entire Bhagavad Gita and say that I can achieve everything what I want to do on my own self. That is not the truth. We have to put the entire teaching of Lord Krishna in a perspective. All the 18 adhyayas, all about what he talks about sadhana, what he talks about what is the role of Ishvara, what is the role of Shraddhavan Labate Jnana, what is the role of Guru, Tadvidvi Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya. So all these has to be put into perspective. That in my upliftment, what is my role and what is the role of others. So here it is described that there are 4 types of Krupa in our Shastra, in our scriptures. That the first is Ishwar Krupa. Of course, Ishwar Krupa is ultimate Krupa because it is only with this Krupa that we get this human birth, this invaluable human life we get, and so many things. We get free oxygen, free water, free life to live, free earth to move. Everything is given to us. Everything has been given, provided to us. Even before our birth, Lord has been very kind to give everything in the womb, all the nutrition, everything through our mother. And then after our birth also we get everything, whatever we need for our survival. And we have also been bestowed with this human potential, our intellect, our mind, of what the human mind can achieve. So these kind of potentials have been given to us, and we have to best make use of this to achieve something higher than what we can achieve. Something, we should have goals where we can stretch our limits and achieve something that will make us better and can do good for us. The second Krupa is called the Guru Krupa, and it is also said that it is the Ishvara Krupa that helps us to get a Guru. And then finding a Guru is also Ishwar Krupa, and then Guru gives us the Updesha, the teachings according to the Vedanta, without any expectation of any return. And this is the big Krupa of the Guru for us. And then the third Krupa is called the Shastra Krupa. Shastra Krupa is that Guru shows us the way by explaining us the scriptures and its deep meaning, which otherwise I would not be able to understand. And this is the Guru Krupa which flows through the Shastra Krupa. And Shastra Krupa is that these meanings does make some sense in my mind. I'm trying to understand what the Shastra or the scriptures is telling us. This is with the Krupa of the Shastra. And to all these we must have a kind of ahobhava. a gratitude, a thank you feeling for everyone, because we have been given with all this without even asking, and sometimes a lot has been given to us. And the fourth Krupa is called the Atma Krupa. Atma Krupa is on my own Krupa, my own, what I do on myself. And this is considered to be the most important. Why? Because it brings all the other Krupa. Unless there is Atma Krupa, I will not understand what is Ishvara Krupa. I will not go to a Guru. I will not learn from the Guru. I will not try to understand the scriptures. So I will not have Ishvara Krupa, will not have Guru Krupa, will not have Shastra Krupa also. So Atma Krupa brings all these other Krupa in my life. And that's why my own efforts, my own Purushartha, my own Atma Krupa is the most important Krupa. And that is what our scriptures tell us, that all the other Krupa like Guru Krupa, Shastra Krupa will show us the way. It will show us that this is the way you can reach and meet and be one with the divine. This is the path you can travel. But it is me who has to travel, who has to walk on that path. It is me who will get lots of obstacles on the path, who may just fall down, sit down, and may not get up again to walk. And it is me who will again stand up and start walking and maybe reach the goal, maybe not, and maybe continue this journey. So this is my own responsibility to myself. And for this, what is needed is a lot of efforts, persistence, patience, and perseverance. A huge amount of all this Purushartha, Dhairya, that is patience, Utsah, a lot of enthusiasm is needed, a lot of persistence and perseverance. At one sadhana, suppose we pick up one sadhana, then we have to take it and cannot leave it halfway. We have to go deep into it. Just like Guruji explains to us commonly that if we want to find water from the earth, we have to go deep down at one point. We have to create the hole and then deepen the hole at the same place till we get water. Similarly, in Adhyatmic sadhana, we have to take one sadhana and then we have to keep using that sadhana till we reach that goal. If we keep using different tools and we keep digging holes in different parts of the earth, and then we will not get the goal, reach to the goal of getting the water. So water it's a metaphor of getting some goal, ultimate goal, amrut of our life. So this is what is the sadhana about, and this is how Atma Krupa is so important. Atma Krupa, again, our Guru Ma tells us that it is Atma Vishwasa that is most important. In Atma Krupa, two things are important. The first is Atma Vishwasa, the self-confidence that I'll be able to do it, I can do it, and I will do it. That kind of confidence in my own self is necessary, but only confidence will not work, because then that confidence has to be coupled with all the efforts, patience, persistence, perseverance to achieve a kind of Atma Sanyama, the self-control. And this is another very big part of the Atma Krupa. And this is my responsibility. It cannot be responsibility of anybody else, because this is all inside us. I have to work with my own mind. I have to work with my own buddhi. I have to work with my own indriyas. I have to work with my own prana and my own body. So all these I have to work with them and modulate, stabilize, balance, strengthen, improve. All this I need to do by constant awareness, by constant practice. Right? So this is where the Atma Krupa is very, very important. Uddharet Atmana Atmanam means elevate your own self by your own self. And this is my own responsibility. It is Atma Krupa. What needs to be changed is my own false beliefs, my own misconceptions which are in my mind. We need to change. We also need to change our own sense of self. We all have our own complexes. Some person may be having a superiority complex. Some people may be having an inferiority complex. Some people think too high about their self. Some people think too low about their self. And all this sense of our self, what we are, what we can do, what we can achieve, what I can do. We all sometimes think, I am not capable of achieving this goal in this lifetime. So this is kind of a negative thinking. We should not do any such negative thinking. We should never feel that I am not capable of doing this. मैं असमर्थ हूँ, ऐसा कभी feel नहीं करना है. We should try our best. And we cannot achieve anything in a leap or a jump. But what we have to do is keep making small changes in our daily routines and keep making some progress constantly. So this is what is needed. We should not be too dependent, too attached to our guru. That sometimes also can be one of the obstacles on the path. And we must be very much prepared to do the hard work, efforts, continuous with discipline. We have to be kind of lage raho on this path continuously and be balanced and think about our own self rather than thinking about others, how others are, and thinking how I can change others. I cannot change others, anyone. So I have to just think about my own self, how I can change myself. And for that, daily introspection is Guru Ma says it's a very important, most important. She says it's like a Brahmastra. It is such an important and such a difficult, important tool that if we keep doing this day to day, then it can help us and progress on this path. Atmanam navas na avasadayet means don't let yourself run down or don't let yourself to ruin. And we have to rise from where we are, because life is like a game of snake and ladder. Sometimes we go up, but sometimes our habits are such that it brings us down, because our old habits sometimes they are not very difficult to change them. And so we do certain things in a way that we can't make progress, or whatever progress we have made for a few days, that progress is also gone with that particular habit. So we have to avoid those kind of thoughts, actions, those negative tendencies that we have that bring us down, those kind of asuri sampatti. It could be vasana, it could be krodha, it could be anger, it could be moha, it could be asaktis, it could be ahankara, it could be my sense of self, it could be anything that just keeps bringing me down again and again. And I have to come out of this by awareness. And we have to know that we can change our habits. All our habits are all ingrained in us. And there is something called neuroplasticity of the brain where we can change it. In the childhood, it is more of a passive neuroplasticity when the children learns from conditioning, which is more of a passive nature. But in adulthood, it is more active with a kind of understanding, with an awareness. We have to change our habits. It is definitely possible. Current science and research also says that this is possible at any age. We can change our habits, and our lifestyles can change completely. Our belief systems can change, and we have to be open for this kind of a change. And we have to make the best use of the time and opportunity given to us in this human life. We shouldn't waste it in senseless, invaluable, valueless things, unnecessary talks and unnecessary, watching too much of television, too much time spending with mobile phones or internet, useless use of all this should be avoided. And we should spend more of our time in our self-improvement, because that is our responsibility. So we should make clear goals in our life and work towards them, and don't think low or negative for our own self. Atmanam na avasadayet. We should always remember, don't think negative, don't think to run down yourself, and we should remember that there is no shortcut. We should not postpone, we should not become lazy. What needs to be done, we should do it now. That kind of proactive attitude we need to have. And there will be many falls, there will be many obstacles in life, but we have to rise every time we fall, and we have to start walking and try to make a way. Sometimes there may not be any way seen, but then we have to keep walking so that we can find a way the next step. And we have to walk with self-confidence, enthusiasm, and continue of our efforts. Charaiveti, keep walking. Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvata. In this shloka, Lord Krishna says how mind can be our best friend or our best enemy. It says Bandhuhu Atma Atmanah Tasya. This mind-body complex of yours can be your best friend, he says. Yena Atma Eva Atmana Jita. For whom it can be a best friend? Can be a best friend for one who has achieved the victory over this Atma. Atma means body-mind complex. That's Karya Karana Sanghata here. So if you have Jita. Jita means we have won over our body, mind and intellect. Indriya Sanyam, Manas Sanyam, Sharir Sanyam, everything has happened. Then for that person, your mind is your best friend. One who does not have this kind of a restraint, control, becomes one's own enemy. So if we don't have control of our body, mind or intellect, then then our mind becomes our own enemy. Shatrutve varte tatmaiva shatruvata. By being lazy, by creating a lot of obstacles on our path. And that's why a lot of our Adhyatmic sadhana is to manage our mind. And that is very important, because mind is the most important tool for us. And mind is very sukshma, it is very subtle, it's very difficult to understand, not like a stula padartha, an object that we can give some direct dimensions, shape, size, how it functions and how it works. Mind is something difficult to understand, comprehend, handle and control. And that's why most of the time we see that people grow up physically, but their mind doesn't grow along with it. It also remains like a child's mind. And that's why it keeps doing such kind of jid, duragra and obsessions, and wants to do, becomes very, very jiddi. Jiddi means, it just wants something at any cost. And then sometimes we don't have to suppress the mind too much, because the mind then rebounds like a spring. We all know that. So mind cannot be suppressed. It has to be tackled. It has to be managed. It has to be handled. But how? That is a million-dollar question. How can we train our mind? We can train ourselves to learn some skill, but how to train our mind? So the best way is to make friendship with our mind, and this is what we call the self-talk. How we can actually sambodhana. We can talk to our mind. We can call our mind and talk to our mind. But for this, we must be clear that I am separate from my mind. I can be aware of the thoughts that are coming in my mind. If I can be aware of what are the impulses, the emotions, the rages, the thought patterns that come in my mind, if I can be aware and I understand that I am not my mind is separate, then I can start interacting, talking with my mind. And this talking will be done through the intellect, because buddhi controls the mind. As we know, even in Kathopanishad, in Bhagavad Gita also it is mentioned that the mind is like a lagam on the horses, and buddhi is the sarathi. Buddhi is holding this lagam. So through buddhi, the sarathi has to be a person who is aware, understanding, so that he can control the lagam and the indriya. The horses are like indriya, the senses, because they keep running outside. So these ashwa, the horses, have to be trained. They have to be sadashwa, means they have to be trained horses. Only if they are trained horses, they will take me to my goal. If they are not trained, they are dushwa, dushwa. So if they are not trained ashwa, then they will take me anywhere here, that the other, and my life will be over. It will not reach to its ultimate goal of life. And that's why, to control this, or to train these horses, to train this, the buddhi through which I have to train my mind. And this mind has to be managed with a lot of understanding, because there are many pressure points on the mind, some past samskaras, past thoughts, past impressions. They create kind of pressures on. So if somebody presses then it will just ignite that. We have seen this very commonly, experience this. Sometimes we can talk to our mind, we can divert our mind. Sometimes we may have to become even slightly strict with our mind. Sometimes we may have to order, but that should be kind of a rarity rather than a common approach, because we can't constantly order or being strict with the mind, because it has it works very vichitra. It is quite unexpectedly. It works. It's quite unexpected. Sometimes it works very weird, and that's why it is said that it is very fragile, and that's why we have to handle with care. Sense control is very important, and that sense control is done by the mind control. Activities are all under my control, and sense control is the indriya sanyama. So this kind of understanding can only come with the mind control over the senses. And these kind of understanding, how we can achieve this indriya sanyam, with what understanding we can achieve indriya sanyam, that only comes with satsanga. Only if we go to the satsanga, hear the shastra, what is the understanding, guru, even our adhyayis, our seekers along with us, they have a different vision. Guruji, Mahapurusho, Santa, Guru will tell us a lot of stories from the Shastras about how Mahapurusha and a Santa, what their understanding, their vision is. And with this new understanding that I get in life, I can definitely try and change my change my, have some better control over my mind and my senses. And world is a beautiful creation. Jagata is a beautiful creation by the Lord Ishvara, and it is without any raga dvesha. It is all these raga dvesha added by the jiva, and we create this samsara, which is the cause for dukkha. Otherwise, jagat is a sukha purvak, and their introspection is also a very important tool for change, for handling our mind. जीतात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः. So in this and the next shloka, Lord Krishna talks about the benefits of self-restraint, sharira, indriya, mana, buddhi, sanyama, and says what we achieve by this, what is the phala, what are the benefits. In the 7th and the 8th shloka, he says, Jitatmana, one who has controlled his body, mind, sense, intellect and all this samuha, he becomes prashant. Prashanti means a lot of shanti. Pratyak shanti means, prashanti means tranquil. It is complete stillness. He achieves this stillness of his own self, and he gets paramatma samahita. He gets established in his own divine self. He knows that he is himself divinity, or herself divinity personified. Shitoshna sukha dukkheshu tatha manapamanayo. He achieves param samatva. That is, he rises above all the dualities of hot, cold. That is the victory of the body, signifies praise and criticism, mana, apmana, which signifies the victory over the mind. Because Shitoshna, Ushna means these are the dharma of the sharira, whereas mana, apmana are the dharma of the mind. So a person achieves all this samatva in all this, and prayatna purvak, we have seen this prayatna purvak samatva is sadhana, and sahaj samatva is siddhi, because the goal Brahma is also sama swarupa, and that is the samatva siddhi. Gnana vijnana truptatma kutastho vijitendriyaha yukta ityuchyate yogi samaloshtasma kanchanaha. So in this shloka, Lord Krishna says Gnana Vijnana Truptatma, one who is fully satisfied. Gnana means the wisdom that the scriptures tell us, the ultimate Gnana, the self-knowledge, the Atma Gnana or the Brahma Gnana. And Vijnana, Vijnana means the assimilation of this knowledge in our own life, with our own experience. It's the experiential knowledge. So that is a Vijnana. So one who is completely satisfied, Paripurna, with this Gnana and Vijnana, he is firmly established, is Kutastha, and is Vijitendriya, who has conquered all his senses, and who sees oneness in Samaloshtashma Kanchanaha, sand, matti, stones, pathara or Kanchana, Suvarna. ये सब में उनकी समबुद्धि है. He has complete samatva, because the vision is not on the forms or the objects, but the vision is on the adhisthana substratum, which is the Brahma or the Tattva or the Atma Tattva. And that's why this person, this integrated harmonious personality is called a yogi or a samadarshi. That is what Lord Krishna says here. So Gnana Vijnana Truptatma means he has attained victory over his sharira by doing tapa, yogasana, abhyasa, over the indriya by seeing Vishaya Dosha Darshana, that is seeing the Dukkha Buddhi in the Vishaya, Pratipaksha Bhavana, seeing the other side of the Vishaya, and by Tyaga, by understanding. And Mana Sanyama by Vairagya, by Abhyasa, by practicing that all these Jagata is Mithya, Swarupa Chintana, and this is the way. And Buddhi Sanyama by Viveka, discrimination, using the intellect to decide what is, to decide the discriminative intellect, and Shraddha, that is faith. So Vivek are of different prakara, Nitya, Anitya Vivek, Satya, Mithya Vivek, Jada, Chetana Vivek. All these Vivek our Buddhi has to do. Suhran Mitraryudasina Madhyastadvesha Bandhushu Sadhushvapi cha Papeshu Samabuddhir Vishishyate. So here it says Samadarshi in all the Chetan of the living beings. So the seeker, a person who sees all oneness, the sameness in Surat, Mitra, Ari, friend, foe, detached, Udasina, Madhyastha who is a mediator, Dvesha who is a rival, and Bandhu, family members, Sadhu, Api, Papeshu, saints or sinners, Samabuddhir Vishishyate. One who sees the sameness of vision everywhere, he is a person who is unique. Because for such person, his vision is not on the dosha, but he sees the guna, he sees the samatva, he sees the oneness behind everything, and that's how the vision is of this person who is a samadarshi. Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitaha ekaki yata chittatma nirashira parigraha. So from the 10th to the 17th shloka, Lord Krishna gives quite important instructions for meditation, and he talks about different aspects of how a yogi in meditation, by doing yoga, satatam, always, he continuously does this, and how he contemplates on the Atman by sitting in isolation, by keeping his mind under control without any expectations, and by being a non-possessor. How he should do it, what are the outer preparations he talks about, Shuchau Deshe Pratishtapya, and from 11th shloka onwards he talks about all these outer preparations of dhyana, how we should do it. So we'll talk this in the next session, because there are many nice instructions about how we should start meditation, what are the important things that we need to take into understanding, consideration, and he talks about a lot of different aspects of meditation. We will see that in the next session. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parah Brahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.